Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the August open office hours with OriginTrail. Today we have Žiga, Tomaž, and Branimir. What's up, guys?
Hey.
How's things going over there in your neck of the woods right now with all the craziness happening?
Yeah.
Is the COVID situation getting better?
Yeah, it's getting way better.
I think we're all glad to see
the
that
situation in the positive. Yeah.
We're all glad to see you're doing better, man.
Doesn't die.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. It seems that I'm coming in with a significant lag, so hopefully this discussion will.
Your boys can pick you up if they have to.
Yeah, but anyhow, it's been I've been doing well. It's been a week or so since I got my test positive for COVID. And my doctor told me that I'm doing tremendously well, especially as compared to other patients. So things are looking good.
Awesome. Glad to hear it, man. All right, I'm going to open it up with our first question for the day. Can the team shed some light on the laboratory data market video shared by Žiga? What is it used for? Who are the users, suppliers of the data? What are the use cases of such a platform? And I know when you shared it out, there was kind of like a little teaser. We saw some water quality data being put into the marketplace. And it's funny, I never even knew that was really a thing, like sharing water quality. And then a week later, the FDA put out a test they were doing, and it was all based on water quality. So this must be a big thing that like a lot of us in the community probably didn't even know was a big thing. So can you share some stuff on the laboratory data market and what's happening there?
Yeah, sure. I'll take this one since Žiga is breaking up significantly. So let me do some of the heavy lifting. Yeah, the LDM, or the Laboratory Data Marketplace, is a very cool project. It's actually being carried out under the auspices of the Block IS, which is funded by the European Commission. But generally, it has a very interesting ambition. So it utilizes some of the components that were previously developed within some of the other projects, including the food data marketplace. So it takes that foundation of a decentralized data marketplace that was created there, but it puts it in a kind of a different market, if you will. So what we're trying to do with the laboratory marketplace and who are the users, basically, everything revolves around the stable isotope analysis. So basically what you're trying to do with that is you're performing certain analysis, which is done with spectrometry and spectrometers, to figure out which are the stable isotopes that are appearing in certain products. So the main objective here is to move from just the kind of contextual data proofs of certain genuinity of a certain product to really having a laboratory proof of, let's say, genuinity of certain milk coming from Slovenia or certain honey coming from New Zealand or whatever product coming from wherever. So what you would do is basically test it out. You figure out which stable isotopes appear in water, they appear in the soil or any other kind of environmental or even product-based samples. And then you search for those same isotopes on the end product as well. And that way you can, if they appear in the same ratio, then you know that this actually came from a certain point in the world. What the problem is, though, is that if you need to perform these reference tests, it costs you around 33 times more than to perform the comparative test at the end. So you have kind of like a disparity in creating the motivation to perform the reference tests. And the laboratory data marketplace is aiming to provide that catalyst so that those that would perform the reference tests would have a way to monetize that data that they've created by doing the reference tests for someone across the world who might be wanting to perform the much cheaper comparative test. So that way, if you look at the vision of something like that, is how can we create a global bank of matter, of where anything is from, by having these reference tests available, so that sometime in the future you'd be able to, even maybe at home, because you'll have a mobile spectrometer, to really analyze something is coming from a certain point in the world by performing this test, paying for the reference test via this decentralized data marketplace, and thus giving also the laboratories on the other side the motivation to create more tests as they go. In terms of the partners we're working here, with a couple of different laboratories from Europe as well as from other continents. We'll definitely speak more about that fact, but as Žiga was sharing, it's very much kind of live. So this was a sneak peek into how the platform itself is going to look like for the users. And yeah, we're kind of quite actively working on this as well in the forthcoming months. So definitely there's going to be more to share. Yeah, we're excited to kind of unlock this new use case, which can be a really, at least in ours, a very, very exciting one to kind of drive this integrity in the way we verify a certain product as well.
And I think a big benefit from that too is with everything that's happening in the world, you know, a lot of countries not getting along. Well, one thing, scientists tend to get along in around the world. That's the typical heart of science. And so now you might have some valuable data that can be exchanged from China to the United States, for example, and not have those barriers in between. That's really preventing the science from taking place. So
yeah,
that's cool.
And if you look at the Trace Alliance organization, actually the laboratory data marketplace idea was already born back in 2018 when we were visiting Vietnam, and one of the laboratories see how the mass spectrometry works in the context of the data marketplace and in the context of the OriginTrail decentralized network. And back then we had quite a few interesting parties joining the OriginTrail Trace Alliance, like One Vu from Vietnam, Source Certain from Australia. And if you look at Source Certain, they have been very, very advanced laboratory, and they've been doing both DNA inspections on food supplies and on other commodities. They've been doing mass spectrometry. So now the main kind of advancement that we would like to bring is a better efficiency when it comes to exchanging data, kind of reference, laboratory reference tests, which to date have been very, very much expensive. And so the idea is not new. And we have done quite a lot of legwork before finally deploying this laboratory data marketplace with the help of the Blockist project, which is a one of the European projects that we're being part of. And I mean, I think we're going to touch upon some other things that we do within Europe, but this is definitely one of the most promising and the most innovative projects. And as one of our advisors points out, John Kyo, I assume you have heard him talking about it. The blockchain traceability and merely using product for digitalization of supply chains you cannot vouch for provenance or origin trail doing just that. You should apply certain forensic methods, and using mass spectrometry data or DNA testing is the only way to actually ensure provenance, ensure origin of products. And it goes really nicely with the OriginTrail solution stack.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting stuff. We're seeing a lot of data markets popping up out there, but nothing seems so far as robust and as impactful as what you're working on, the type of data, beyond just like a vehicle's mileage report or something like that, you know. So awesome. TRAC has been moving up in the rankings nicely, which may imply some well-deserved recognition. The next step for the token should be high liquidity exchange listing. So are the current plans and efforts for a top exchange listing? There's been a ton of volume coming in, even not on the big tier exchanges, which is impressive. Seeing volume numbers that we haven't seen in this market for the TRAC token, it comes up every time, and I always say I'll ask it just in case there's ever a different answer. But are there any advances going on bigger tier one type exchanges?
Yeah, I think it's a valid question, and especially with a lot of newcomers into the community, as we're seeing over the last couple of weeks, it doesn't hurt to explain just the general approach we have to the topic, which is always kind of looking at always the main or the main focus or the main vision of ours is to focus on what is good for the ecosystem long term. So this is always the prism that we would take at assessing any opportunity really, or any decision as to what would be good for the ecosystem or not. And similarly, of course, one is around the technology. Maybe there's others that are around kind of the business adoption of the things, and the kind of token ecosystem, if you will, and the traders environment is as well as an important topic. And as the exchanges kind of questions do pop up, of course, we are kind of following the situation. We're active in the in this topic as well, or in this sphere as well, but always through the prism of what's a long-term viable or sensible approach, especially because as a landscape, also the exchanges landscape shifts quite significantly a lot of times. Although we're now seeing certain longevity with certain actors in the field, we always want to feel comfortable in any relation that we enter, be it with an exchange or a supplier or even a customer or developer or whatever. We always want to feel that it's something that is good for the ecosystem long term. And when those opportunities come up, we're happy to engage also, of course, and we are looking at some of the larger exchanges, as well as some of the maybe not so today big exchanges, but that have a kind of a value point that we see that is positive. We've had the kind of the Nash, which is obviously not the size of some of the larger, but a lot of kind of the values that the Nash exchange is following alongside the decentralization approach is kind of aligned with our way of thinking. And this is here we can be kind of quicker in terms of finding a good spot to do something together, and kind of this is where we feel comfortable. So this is what we're looking at as well.
Yeah, and I will say the Nash listing, it was super important for in some ways that some people might not realize, is that Nash is highly regulated. It's really by the books. They work very closely with governments, and so it's very difficult for them to qualify listing assets on there because it's going to make sure it checks all the boxes. Yeah. And the fact that the token is on Nash now, I feel it really opens you up to a lot more of these higher tier exchanges that follow government regulations, and they're seeing it as less risky in that case.
I'll echo your opinion, and it's something that we were working towards as well. Even before that, it's kind of how does Trace as an asset qualify? Obviously, it's a utility token. So also again, for the newcomers maybe that are just tuning in, Trace is a utility token. It does not, there's no passive income as such, but it's rather a token that is used in the network to perform certain functions, and the nodes or the participants in the network might get rewarded for the certain benefits they bring to the network by Trace. But it's a very kind of, we need to be clear about it, and it's also kind of that's why we're taking other measures into kind of confirm the way we're thinking, and that's also kind of enables us to then have an easier relationship with partners like Nash.
Exactly. Yeah, it was super cool. I was glad to see it. It means a lot from a community standpoint too. Speaking of Nash, would Nash's multi-chain state channel solution be a proper solution for the actual gas problem? And this is more for Branimir, I'm sure. In speaking to that, I'm going to combine a few questions here because they kind of pertain to Nash. I might as well put them in one. Their team also seems super technical from what I can see, and they seem like they had nothing but great things to say about the OriginTrail team, even on like Twitter. So is there a lot of collaboration that you can see benefiting both sides there with Nash going forward too?
Maybe I start with the original idea of the state channels, which is, by the way, one of the cool elements of the Nash exchange. And I really like their approach in terms of going sort of as far as sort of they can in the direction of decentralization. And it sounds actually quite interesting, because in a way state channels are one of the things that definitely can help a lot when it comes to specifically the high usage toll on Ethereum, specifically at this point in time, with gas fees being very, very high. And essentially state channels are to a degree foundational to the way the OriginTrail protocol works actually at this point in time. It's not a generalized state channel in that sense, so you cannot use it to exchange, tokens like on a Nash exchange. So there's definitely, things that can be sort of extended in that direction. But currently, for example, if you're running a node, you'll see that when you create one, you get to deposit a certain amount of tokens into a smart contract, which essentially is sort of like opening up a channel, but you're not opening up a particular channel to a specific other node. You're really part of the network, which in a way makes it cost a bit more. So in that sense, there's not only optimizations but also edits that could be done in that way. That having a state channel open would be beneficial, because in terms of, and I'll try not to go too deep into the tech, but in terms of state channels, when they're really cool is when you have two parties that sort of are intending to have multiple transactions together. So let's say, I don't know, dozens of transactions, and that means like you kind of perform all these transactions off chain, and then you take the resulting transaction which combines all of them, and through a series of proofs you publish that on chain, and you kind of save on tons of transactions. But that's when you have two parties that are sort of predetermined, that collectively usually decide on how they go about this. But when you have a network of nodes that actually randomly get selected on how the replication mechanism is going to work, so you cannot it's a bit different. So it's not like opening up a channel for every single pair of nodes. That's not scalable, because as the network grows, obviously this goes a bit too high. So it grows up, what's the right English word? Well, sort of not non-linearly, but it grows
dynamically. Yeah.
So you get a very sort of a weird combination. But yeah, definitely the team seems to be doing pretty interesting stuff. And just towards the general discussion on state channels, some of these are actually quite interesting to look at, because in a way there could be let's say an upgrade towards utilizing some of the proven stuff which, when it comes to optimizations on Ethereum, that could help lower the footprint of the smart contracts of ODM. So there's definitely interesting stuff there that the team has been involved in for a while already. We're looking into it, and we might have some more discoveries that we could actually share in the relatively near future, but cannot say too much at the moment. It's still a work in progress.
We'll go ask Fabio. He'll tell us. No, I'm just kidding. But do you also see yourself using Nash as a liquidity provider for NOS? Would that is the way it's designed? Would that be feasible to do?
Yeah.
Sorry.
In terms of the liquidity provisioning system, in a way, Nash is a very good candidate, and from the get-go, in terms of being very pro decentralization, we've actually started working with Uniswap first. Uniswap being currently I think the most used protocol on Ethereum altogether, at least when it comes to gas fees. And in that sense, it's also pretty well proven in the second iteration, going from that end of the spectrum all the way towards fully centralized exchanges. Nash is sort of closer to what we see as where the whole ecosystem should move into. So yeah, definitely it will be possible, because the way the liquidity provisioning system is being designed is that it can be extended. So it would be detrimental not to go and build it in such a way that you can attach different liquidity providers towards the same system. But yeah, again, that's an evolving system. It's actually relatively complicated, even though it sounds simple. It's a different sort of way of approaching for every different exchange. So definitely, it's something that makes a lot of sense.
And I think it's something a lot of people, when they come into this ecosystem, that they kind of undervalue, is the importance of non-custodial exchanges, because there's a lot of these exchanges out there that they could just shut down tomorrow and that's it, and when everything's gone. So when you have these non-custodial solutions, it allows people to keep control of their assets, and they don't have to trust anybody with it themselves. So it makes total sense that NOS would be utilizing those systems, because they're not going to, as long as Ethereum's here, they're going to be here. So it's cool to see. Can you tell us approximately how many blockchain projects or companies are in the GS1 EPCIS working group? We saw that recently was announced that you're part of this working group, but I don't personally know much about it myself, but is there anything you can share there without, that you're allowed to share?
Well, the GS1 EPCIS group is pretty dynamic. So the number of partnerships change. I mean, the memberships change very quickly. And unfortunately, we don't get all the information as to who actually decides and who gets admitted into the working group. And right now, to our knowledge, there are no public decentralized solutions providers in the working group for EPCIS. That said, there are some other blockchain providers, the usual suspects like IBM or Oracle, and you know, today nearly every service provider in some capacity at least offers blockchain solutions. So I'm certain there are quite a few, but again, to our knowledge, we are the only ones offering you know, some public decentralized infrastructure in that group.
All right, that's awesome. And I'm assuming a lot of people in that group would have a need for this public and private data sharing, I would assume, because that seems to be a hot thing that no one else can really solve right now. So I guess it's a good sign that you're in there in this working group. It shows the need is real. So
yeah, this working group, may I just add from a technical standpoint, because I participated in the meetings. The group is really in the sort of the prototyping phase for EPCIS 2.0, but which is actually quite further along than 1.2, the current running version of EPCIS. But there's also quite a lot of overlap when it comes to the group understanding the need for decentralized technologies and how they can be adapted to use. So it's becoming sort of more obvious that identity is a very important topic. First of all, if you want to share any piece of data with anyone, you have to kind of, well, identify that device or person or whatever. So the identity in terms of authentication and authorization as well is sort of a thing that traditionally organizations always think of as a centralized entity. So you have a sort of an identity provider, let's say within Oracle Cloud, there's an identity manager application or Amazon, and you know, someone manages these identities, and that's I mean, completely normal within an organization. But then when you as you go outside of that realm, it becomes complicated. So there's these new standards that are coming out. One of the most important ones is the decentralized identifiers, which is really sort of hand in hand with verifiable credentials, which is the other one, and all of them essentially are starting to sort of fit into the story of EPCIS, because the people that are working on them are quite a few of them are actually across different groups. So essentially, when you think of it, EPCIS, you know, is traditionally talking about barcodes, about identifiers that are very sort of you know, traditional, have been used for decades already. Not built for the context of the internet. And then today we have this, you know, internet identifiers, which are sort of in the centralized mindset, and then finally moving towards the next stage of the decentralized world, where we have the new identifier schemes showing up, and that's where even self-sovereign identity plays quite a big role. So in that sense, when you look at the whole spectrum, all of a sudden it starts connecting together. And because it's by nature a decentralized system, as any supply chain really that's not fully integrated, then it makes sense that you have these same type of problems. You cannot identify someone who's outside of your organization. So you need to have some sort of global standard for it. And in that way, EPCIS has been doing that for products, you know, defining how they move around and what happens with them. And then the other set of standards is really going past that. And EPCIS 2.0 is, in a way, can test that already. So it's really good that the standard is very close, because the prototyping stage actually means that it's almost fully specified, and it's up for a first sort of test run. And it's going to be great because we get to be part of that. So and give the feedback from the implementations that we're already doing.
I mean,
so yeah,
it sounds like that I mean, beyond supply chain, one day I could have my passport on the ODN for all I know. I mean, the way things are going with self-sovereign identities and the IDs, it's not too crazy to think about.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, if you just look at the evolution of our use cases, when we add self-sovereign identity, when we add, let's say, digital ink, when we add any other standard, this is all because there's a market need that we need to service. So nothing happens like in laboratory here within the Trace Labs. Everything is driven by the actual need in the market, and same goes for the SSI and the upcoming great stuff connected to the next generation internet that we're becoming part of. And actually, OriginTrail is becoming one of the leading protocols within the initiatives driven by the European Commission, as indicated by all the projects that we got involved in. And I believe we have revealed most of them, but there are at least 2 right now that we're that are going to be talked about more in the coming weeks.
Awesome, exciting. That we always love getting those news announcements, so it's good stuff. Especially, it's good. It's encouraging to see the EU is really behind you guys too. So it gives validity to everything you're doing, and it's awesome. All right, this one, let's see, main dish with a bunch of exclamation points. Is it a partnership with a company, an organization? Any clues? LOL.
Well, the main dish itself is it's definitely more than a partnership. It's it's something definitely exciting, but definitely before the main dish, there's still going to be quite many appetizers. A lot has been happening lately, and I mean, we're currently, even on a weekly basis, getting new things in, new prototypings, new proof of concepts, new projects. So plenty of exciting stuff to look forward to each week. And we told you that, with every week there's going to be an announcement, and it seems that for the foreseeable future, that's going to be the case. So we're going to have at least one good announcement per week.
Awesome.
Before the main dish.
Right. Yeah. Well, I can't wait. I mean, everybody's just, I'm more happy at this point to see people stop talking about it than I am to hear the main dish, but
Yeah, I mean, the appetizers are going to be so exciting that it's I assume people will ask with many of the appetizers, is that the main dish or is this just the appetizer? So
you'll know when the main dish comes out, right? I mean, you'll know. Like, it's,
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's see. What makes OriginTrail different compared to baseline protocol? So this is strictly from somebody who's looking at it, from both sides, like a little removed from baseline, but it seems like baseline still isn't really a whole built solution. It seems like, as John Wolpert calls it, it's a recipe for the tech. So what does make OriginTrails stand out from baseline? If you had to just give an overall simple answer for that without getting too crazy or too technical.
I mean, one of the things is definitely the adoption. OriginTrail initially in a centralized form, and now for most of its existence in a decentralized form, has been in use in plenty of industries. And not just the proof of concept use. We have customers, we have partners that are actively, iteratively using the OriginTrail decentralized network. And another point is that OriginTrail is a decentralized knowledge graph. So it is a platform of a sort. So that definitely distinguishes OriginTrail from, say, baseline initiative. That said, whatever baseline achieves within the realm of Ethereum is definitely going to be useful for OriginTrail project as well. For several years, we have been kind of a sole rider in the kind of mainstream adoption of the Ethereum network. And as one of the questions that we got also is the Ethereum gas fee problem, which it is a problem, and OriginTrail tries to be blockchain agnostic as well. and blockchain agnosticism, and going against this technological dogmatism is definitely in the core of the OriginTrail DNA, whereas with the baseline sits on firmly on top of the Ethereum, which is good. I mean, Ethereum so far has been one of the projects with the with the largest development communities, with the largest innovation potential. However, lately, as you have seen, the Ethereum both community and the way the network works has have indicated certain kind of problems, and that's why we believe the original OriginTrail's DNA of being non technology dogmatic is the right way. So this is also one of the things that definitely distinguishes OriginTrail from baseline.
And speaking to being agnostic, I'm kind of feeding this into the next question on here. Will you be adding a scaling solution like Polkadot tokens to the ODN to tackle the high gas fees? So Polkadot's the whole cool new thing now. Everybody's just talking about Polkadot because it actually, like the tokens go out this week. Do you see parachains being one of those type of options maybe for scaling on the ODN? Has that been talked about or even looked at?
I mean, gas problem is definitely one of the biggest problems, not only for us, but generally for the industry. And if we are to solve this problem, and I believe one of the questions again is pointing more towards this obvious issue, there are two ways to address the problem. One way is to incrementally decrease the problem of higher Ethereum cost. This is something that we can do, in a rather short term. And on the other hand, a long-term solution. So how do we go from, not having a very scalable blockchains to be used for enterprise purpose, to having full scalability and also the full interoperability, and having Polkadot and also having some other projects that we can learn from and perhaps take technology from and take expertise from is definitely something that, and Branimir will also, I guess, go into this more into detail, is very useful to have. And actually, we cannot address this issue of blockchain poor interoperability and poor scalability without projects like Polkadot. So definitely it is one of the candidates. And we do have the Trace Alliance going towards also admitting members, and you have what you have seen recently with Emergo and also some other companies. We are trying to have Trace Alliance set up in a very inclusive way, so that we admit both projects that are building up interoperable and scalable solutions, and on the other hand, solutions that are delivering on the, let's say, enterprise blockchain solutions. And our aim here is to take, from the best projects, learn from them, and perhaps even work on them, collaborate with them on solving specific issues. And Polkadot definitely is a good candidate, bottom line.
Cool, awesome. I'm going to take a question from the chat. How do you manage your resources, developers, other departments with these constant new requirements? Are you planning to scale your team like 2x? And I know that Trace Labs always says Trace Labs is hiring, but are you getting to a point where you're like, okay, we need to get more butts in the seats working on this thing? Or you feel like you're kind of, you're at the right level yet or not?
I mean, yeah, from the point of view of having, I mean, right now we have so many projects. We have, the good thing is we are validating the technology. We have a very good runway. Actually, we're break even, which is not the case for majority, if not all, blockchain and crypto projects. This is all good. That said, getting fresh talent, getting great people on board is something that is, it's not easy, and the doors are always open. And if we had a magic wand in our hands, and if we could just double the team size, I guess all three of us would have always opted for that. But we are growing steadily. We're looking for new talent, and so this is one way of increasing the impact of the Trace Labs and actually the overall OriginTrail's mission and ecosystem. And the other way is to equip other service providers with the tools such as network operating system, so they can scale up the adoption of the OriginTrail decentralized network more quickly. So this is something that we're also putting our resources towards, and kind of the staffing plan, the human resources are following this same logic. Again, Tomaž, Branimir, please jump in. So this is my view from this point in time and from this location at the farm. So I'm kind of I don't have plenty of people around me, and sometimes it feels that the organization we are in is already pretty big. But when you function in a decentralized way, one of the great thing is that you can scale up your team very quickly, and you can also get your hands on some fresh talent, not necessarily from this part of the world.
Yeah, and
am I still in?
Yep,
do I have a
You're
problem
there.
with connectivity? Oh, perfect. Great.
And Branimir, were you about to speak on that too?
Yeah. In terms of, just to add upon Žiga what he said, so yeah, we're definitely scaling the team, but in that sense, when you ask a developer, we're always going to say that we need more people. We just need more hands. And there's a point which kind of learn in the books, but you learn it in the hard way as well. Is when the team grows big, you start getting into sort of the same n squared problem I mentioned. You get n actors. The bigger the n squared is the number of the connections between people, the overhead of and so on. So it helps to be lean at certain times, and that's why we are moving forward with the notion of really taking the best talent for the team. So that helps in terms of lowering the overhead of communication, just having the ability to efficiently interact using the tools, and at that point in time, that means we're actually being pretty picky. I have to say that. And from the experience we had so far, that's kind of a very good choice. Doesn't really make us slower, rather than because once you have a bigger team, the coordination, especially among many projects, can actually not only slow you down, but you could even sort of grow the technical debt, and then you start spending a lot of your resources on fixing that stuff rather than going. So in that sense, it's absolutely we're growing, and absolutely I would like to use this opportunity to ask anyone who's interested into the project or generally in the space, if you are up for building something that is definitely on the route to changing how we exchange data, both between companies, but as well as personal data towards the companies, in terms of digital identity, blockchain, graph technologies, do give us a call, because we're looking for such geeks like us.
And just so everybody knows, you can go on the Trace Labs site and apply there too. They have all the listings available, so you can see them. Awesome. All right, let's see. What can you tell us about the current state of Trace Alliance? Well, we have seen some stellar additions with Emergo and Ivan added to the partners. What does the future hold for the Trace Alliance? And we also saw the Ivan stuff come on, where they're going to start building courses around developing on the ODN, working exclusively with the team. So where is the Trace Alliance going? There's some stuff in the roadmap, even in Q4, that make it look like maybe the Trace Alliance will be kind of seen more as a governance model of some sort. Is there anything you can speak about as far as progress with the Trace Alliance and where you see it heading and how Ivan fits into the situation?
Yeah, I believe we have already pointed out that Trace Alliance is going to be heavily relied on for the governance purposes, as you pointed out. One of the reasons why this is the case is that Trace Alliance, unlike let's say Trace Labs, which is the core developer of OriginTrail, kind of mandate to make sure and to be the core agent for the adoption of the OriginTrail protocol, and as such, it is developing proprietary solutions. That said, having a proprietary builder might prove to be might put certain obstacles towards the adoption in terms of for other companies like the competition of Trace Labs to be discouraged to use OriginTrail, and that's why Trace Alliance, which is based and is following the principle of inclusivity, is a better positioned organization to open up its doors for other companies, for other research institutions to join OriginTrail's mission. And this is what it has been doing so far. It has over, I believe we're approaching 200 members right now. We also have some more prominent members joining in, like Emergo. We also had a recent addition with Ivan on Tech, and this is not a coincidence, especially with the Ivan on Tech, with whom we have been in talks from essentially since 2018, when we had the first conversation with them, then live in Belgrade and Slovenia, Ljubljana, and that is when the idea of for collaborating on the educational front sprung to our minds. But then back then it was still too early. I believe Ivan visited us when we were launching the mainnet. There was an event in Ljubljana and we launched the mainnet. So immediately following the launch of the mainnet in January 2019, it was kind of too early for the education on that subject. Now that the OriginTrail technology and also the network is reaching certain maturity level, we kind of rekindled the conversation with Ivan, and we did not want to have a typical partnership just for the sake of announcing something, which is again not a good practice we see within the ecosystem. We pushed heavily on on having education in place, and education is something that is very much missing in this space. We have a lot of news, we have a lot of talking, not a lot of real building, and definitely not a lot of useful education. And understanding how semantic web and understanding how open standards, how blockchain for enterprise can be used to deliver value for enterprises, for organizations, is going to be a very much sought skill in the future. And we want to position Trace Alliance and OriginTrail to be at the forefront of offering solutions, courses, and at the end of the day, offering certain distribution of such content through the likes of the Ivan on Tech Academy. Going back to the Trace Alliance again, Trace Alliance as such, as a governing body, and also as an educational platform, as an inclusive platform, is also going to be used to legitimize certain decisions for the roadmap going forward. So the roadmaps so far have been designed in a rather centralized manner, which is completely and entirely normal, because we as a core developer of OriginTrail, we believe that we had all the knowledge, we believe that we had all the necessary expertise to suggest the roadmaps that have been executed upon so far. That said, in the future, we see that plenty of companies are bringing in their expertise. They're bringing in, like you pointed out, Polkadot and some other scalability solutions. And in order to have an even more quality roadmaps designed for the future of the OriginTrail, we decided to form working groups within Trace Alliance, at least 3 of them. We can touch upon one of them because it's quite essential to our discussions today here. One of them is called Decentralization and Tokenization Working Group, and this is where we are going to be discussing the future of OriginTrail decentralized network. How should we design the roadmap? How should we tackle the problem of the consensus layer, which is causing the higher fee problem? And we believe that having a larger group of participants there in that working group can actually yield a better roadmap for the future. and the participants in those working groups are going to be very diverse, all with an intent of having a more quality roadmap coming out as a deliverable. So that, in a nutshell, is the future of the alliance, and there's going to be quite a lot of announcement in the future tied towards the Trace Alliance as well.
Cool. So it sounds like the Trace Alliance is kind of going to be this like decentralized autonomous organization, so to speak, like a DAO, where it kind of decentralizes out some of the decisions going forward, which is good because it takes that centralized roadmap model away. So awesome. I'm going to jump to a chat question, try to mix it up a little. Soon we will see U.S. regulations around DSCSA, Drug Supply Chain Security Act, where drugs to be authenticated and verified in the U.S. have been contacted. Have you been contacted by parties for a solution for this? And I know this, I'm familiar with this one to some degree. I think it's starting this November, and by 2023, regulators are requiring that there be new protocols put in place, so to speak, around pharmaceuticals. So has anybody reached out to OriginTrail or Trace Labs with this DSCSA law that's going into effect?
Of course, like pharmaceuticals is one of the industries that's very highly regulated, also from the aspect of the act that you just mentioned that's coming up. Similar thing is with tobacco happening in the EU. Food, obviously, as well, is heavily regulated on both continents. Even FDA now putting out a blueprint on how the future of the food is coming up, or shaping up from their point of view, and what's kind of the key values around which it will have to be systems that are tackling safety and traceability are going to have to take into account. So we've had conversations around that industry as well, and the upcoming regulation that you mentioned. Nothing that we could really kind of disclose or speak about openly, but from a high level, I guess the main use cases, if you will, here really revolve around the traceability aspect, especially with serialization that's coming into the place. So serialization meaning that every single package of every series of the packages of the drugs that are being created need to be appropriately marked and need to be able to kind of follow how they not only went to the pharmacy, if you will, but also to the final customer, and those that haven't been sold to the final customer, where if they were sent back. So the entire traceability needs to be in, so that they could omit really the gray market of drugs or diversion of drugs, which happens a lot of times where certain medicine is being sold in another state, which maybe has a more beneficial pricing to the state that it is intended to. So that's one thing, is around traceability, and the other one is chargebacks. Yes, so it's really an industry thing, which is kind of like how to manage different processes around payments that flow between different partners in the supply chain, because there are some peculiarities to the pharmaceutical industry. So I guess these are the two topics, generally speaking, we can say that have popped up in that aspect. But yeah, like I said, in terms of concrete discussions that we were having, I wouldn't go into too much detail.
And it seems like the GS1 digital link stuff would be a perfect fit for this as well.
Yeah. One of the things that you hear here is what GS1 is focusing on, with things that Branimir mentioned, the GS1 EPCIS 2.0 coming in, really taking the next step from the 1.2 version, is there to support things like pharmaceuticals, even more so things like the FDA blueprint, because it adds so much of also the audit element and the IoT data and a lot of stuff that really makes this system flow more fluently, as well as more, it makes it more robust, because we can just rely more on the data aspect of things rather than kind of, either people or pen and paper and things like that. So it's and digital link for serialization, of course, that's like it's a very, very useful tool to perform such things. So there's a lot of advancements coming in, partly driven by the regulation, partly driven by just the sheer value that it's bringing to the table, to the businesses, that will quite significantly impact the way kind of even retail, the fast-moving consumable goods the whole industry is working. over the course of let's say next couple of years.
Awesome. Yeah, seems like it's a perfect use case for the ODN. So it'd be really cool to see what comes out of that.
You have that decentralized knowledge graph, which will give you the data that you can trust, that's connected, that everyone has access to whatever they should have access to, and not more or not less. So whenever we speak about all these things, maybe we take it for granted, but it doesn't hurt to say again, you know, be it we're talking about the laboratory data marketplace that's using the ODN node to publish this data and to purchase it. So everything is basically running off of this decentralized knowledge graph layer that's underneath. It's like a given with every conversation that we have, in case, again, some newcomers maybe are not taking that for as much for granted as we do.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because that does freak people out with a lot of projects. It's always such a focus, like, well, you know, what is the token always going to be used? I mean, but it has to be.
Very fair question, and they wouldn't be asking the question if, you know, it would be an industry standard that this indeed is the case. We've had cases brought like that maybe that was not quite so, but we're kind of excited that this really, to show just how many different things you can really do, and all of them are based off of the fact that you are using the ODN, you are using Trace, and you're getting the value out of it. So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, thanks for touching on that. It's always good to hear. Women are increasingly present in the investment side of crypto, but this is not reflected in the blockchain industry in terms of leadership and representation. Studies have shown diverse organizations are more innovative, and as blockchain is effectively reimagining how we approach technology and the nature of computing. How do you think the industry is approaching diversity and inclusion? Is it innovative technology only, or the same old still business practices and gender disparity? Or do you think that as blockchain seeks to find unique solutions to help unrepresented individuals is also making an effort to tackle diversity, including from within? And it's a good point, and you hear a lot. We're moving away from a lot of legacy IT, right, and legacy practices and thought. So now we're going from centralized systems to decentralized systems. We're not seeing enough inclusiveness in the legacy IT world. So you would think if we're moving away from centralization to decentralization, we'd also want to see a really big leap towards more inclusion and more diversity, but we don't see it a lot yet. You know, you don't see a lot of founders being female, and even as far as, you know, diverse nationalities and races. So do you see this environment moving forward in that direction and making this in solving, like at least improving upon this old legacy mindset of still business practices in technology?
Again, I think we can all speak to the fact, but from my perspective and from the perspective of the values that are being shared within the Trace Labs and OriginTrail ecosystem as a whole, inclusivity is one of the core pillars of how we function, and particular attribute, if you will, of a person, whether it be gender, race, religious beliefs, or anything else, is not really something that should influence how much value someone can bring. And I do agree to the fact that diversity does bring a lot of new views, new way of doing things that can really improve an organization. I mean, even the three of us, despite being all guys, you know, started as a multinational company from Slovenia and Serbia. Despite being close, it still offered, at least even that distance, offered a couple of different viewpoints that allowed maybe for a different way of doing things, different way of thinking, that maybe introduced some of the things that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So as an organization, we're very open to look at the value that someone can bring to the table, and then to the ecosystem. How can they really play the best role that they can within an organization, regardless of. I mean, I agree with the thinking that I think you were trying to say. It's like the legacy, and then we have kind of just the new way of thinking, and it does seem sometimes like that. It's certain, when you enter certain discussions, are really wrapped up around something that should have been left in some sort of a past some time ago, but just somehow hasn't.
And it seems like this is a good space for that to change in, because you are seeing a lot of, in blockchain, it's a lot of young blood coming in, developing this stuff. And it's a lot of the young blood that feels the need for inclusion and diversity. So I think that alone was probably going to help move more towards being inclusive and diverse.
Also the fact that as the industry matures, it's going to become bigger as well. So we'll have more people coming in. And it's like even if you look at the certain, a lot of kind of closing down of the sub ecosystems within the crypto environment even. So here we're really looking at we are very much aware of what OriginTrail is as an ecosystem can deliver in terms of value. And we are open then to look at how can we use components or things that are being developed by others, again, fostering this inclusivity to really amplify what we're doing and what they're doing. And again, that type of inclusivity is at the end of the day also what we feel will drive the entire ecosystem's value, because that's how we can really, you're saying how can we grow, right? So the growth of, okay, we're only dependent on the growth of a single team, that's going to be more difficult to do it. If we can tap into other minds, into other teams, into other ecosystems, it's there where really the potential for really wide adoption lies. And this is where we, legacy or non-legacy, right? So it's also, we're not really talking only about the blockchain ecosystems here, but also some of the larger companies around that we have a chance to work with. And that type of inclusivity really has to go, it's a value that you bring in the organization in terms of how you build out a team, but also in terms of how you then grow the ecosystem as a whole. And so you can run it.
Totally agree. So let me jump around here. I'm trying to do an even balance of Q&A from the chat and from the submitted questions, but any idea when you'll be raising funds for Trace Labs, like a seed investment? Any chance for community to get a chance to participate in it? So like, yeah, when can I use my TRAC to invest in Trace Labs, But you did mention before that you guys, once you grow, you're gonna need some sort of external capital. So when do you see that coming? Or is that soon or is that later? And what would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, we have been fighting with this. I mean, we had internal soul searching on this very topic for the last 7 years, basically. So what should come first? Should we bootstrap? Should we get clients, enough clients, plenty of projects first, and only then seek additional capital? And so far, we have managed to bootstrap all the proprietary technologies, as we also develop the OriginTrail protocol, but the proprietary technologies, which are at the end of the day bringing value to the clients, is something that we always have been developing with the proceeds that we got from the market, or the proceeds that we got from the R&D projects, from the governments, from the European Commission, and it has always been the case. This gave us at least two great things. It gave us, validation, because if you just raise money from venture capitalists, you don't necessarily validate what you built. And the good thing is that we have always validated and earned enough money to sustain the life in this organization. And another good thing is that we have always been sovereign enough so that we could make decisions without hurting either the mission of the Trace Labs, which eventually translates into the mission of the OriginTrail ecosystem. And Trace Labs and OriginTrail ecosystem as such are 100% aligned, and this alignment is a direct consequence of the fact that we're 100% owners of the equity, so the founders between the three of us. And when we are contemplating opening up the investment into the Trace Labs in the future, so allow others to join us at the equity table, this sovereignty aspect, or at least this 100% alignment with the OriginTrail values aspect, is something which is essential for us to consider if we are to allow others to join us in the ownership structure of the Trace Labs company. And definitely in the future, I mean, all of the companies, all the great companies that have scaled up from very small garage companies up until bigger multinational have at some point at least required external capital. And Trace Labs definitely will also open up its doors for the equity investors, but it's very hard to say when exactly. What is absolutely possible to say at this point is that we're going to be seeking 100% alignment with the OriginTrail values. And you saying that opening up doors for also tracers and someone who's actually very much savvy of what trace, not only Trace Labs is all about, but also what OriginTrail is all about, makes a lot of sense. So seeking a kind of a well-balanced representation in the future within the equity cap table between those who really understand what OriginTrail is all about and, let's say, partners that are in control of distribution channels for technologies based on OriginTrail would be a very, very good mix for us.
Yeah, as Elon Musk kind of showed, once you start getting certain levels of funding, you lose a lot of control, and it can really warp your vision. And I know sometimes he just wants to rip his hair out and go back to private again for that reason. So it's that weird balance that you got to kind of maintain.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is, and this is, I guess, the impact of this is being felt by anyone who's becoming part of the OriginTrail ecosystem, becoming a holder, becoming a node holder, or the trace holder, whatever, is that we never took any VC money for those VCs to control the equity and tell us to give them a whole bunch of let's say Trace token, and right. then they dump this token. So this is something that you would not see with us. What you hear from us, so there is no other puppet master behind us. So we're we're solely responsible and accountable for what we say and what we eventually implement through the Trace Labs and Trace and OriginTrail. And I believe this is a very strong argument and on our part.
Great. Yeah, it's going to be fun watching you guys just keep growing. It really will be. So TRAC community is interested in a series of 2 to 3 videos to explain what OriginTrail in the ODN is about and how it's different from other supply chain projects and how it's complementary. Also, why the ODN can be used in non-supply chain purposes. In order to produce some animations, you may need to hire some animation graphic artists. Will the team be open to fund costs of animation graphic designers from the community bounty funds? And I just learned what these were technically called the other day, but they're called animated explainer videos, where you see like the little like Billy has a token and he wants to set up a node, and I know it sounds funny, but a lot of people are visual people. So when I'm putting a huge wall of text down trying to explain that the ODN doesn't compete with VeChain and it can complement it, it loses people sometimes. So sometimes people need those easy visualizations to see why and how. Is there any chances of putting out some sort of content like that, or using some of the bounty funds to maybe even fund some community involvement? And I know we had the community site was supposed to be sometime maybe Q3, if I remember correctly. So would that be something that would benefit the community site, is having something like that available?
I think we had a lot of very amazing, like just content being produced over the course of the last even months. It's like really like shout outs to all the guys that are making these things. We are constantly amazed. It's like sometimes they come like overnight when you sleep, and then in the morning you just have like awesome content to check out. So it's always great to kind of be able to see and also get an insight into how maybe someone else is understanding the project and the communications we made. Like how is it really recap? How does it travel? How does it translate in terms of what we wanted to say and how maybe someone else understood it? So that's always very, very good, and we're super excited to see that coming up. And again, kudos to everyone, including you, Guinness. And yeah, I think the idea on the short that was a question was around the short explainer videos. I think it's a good idea to have. We'll definitely kind of look at how we could accommodate for some more easy to consume materials. Although, like I said, I think some of the current already existing stuff that was done by the community is very spot on and good. But like you said, it's always kind of some people react differently to more visual things. and it's definitely a point that we can take into the consideration. Also, the idea for kind of using the or setting up sort of a bounty scheme for certain content is something that we can look at for, especially for the future development fund, kind of like, and see how that can be adjusted within that, and maybe propose some of the paths of how that could be worked on, just to give more structure and clarity, and not do something really ad hoc, which would maybe not be well thought out enough. But that's what basically the future development fund is there for, and that's why we it's a thing that we feel it's also something that should be kind of a little bit of a back and forth in terms of coming up with the right system. So it's not just something that, and it goes back to what Žiga was saying in terms of kind of having a more inclusive approach into how the things are going to happen in the future. That's one of the definitely things that should have a like a more debate. Yeah, so that would be kind of my thinking. It's like, it's great ideas, and I'm loving all the content that's coming out. It's really great. I hope.
Hey, you got a rap song out now by Amos. So
dude, Amos, man, you're looking. I need like a flag version of that, like some important stuff to put on the speakers. I don't know if it's out yet, but
yeah, we'll have to see if we can upload it to like the Apple Store or something like that, you know. All right, I'm gonna end with this question because we're going kind of late. It's late where you guys are. I'm getting hungry, so I'll probably just end with this. And this was my question, and I just thought it was an opportunity, maybe if you wanted to speak more about the Trusted COVID-19 Essentials project. And how's the turnout so far? Is there anything else you want to use this platform in to re-educate or ask the community?
Yeah, we got a great response from the community. We have, I believe that we're hitting the boundaries of the number of spots made available through the whitelisting process, which is good. So the targets are being met. On the other hand, we have had government representatives approach us. We even had, I believe, the World Economic Fund for the Economic Fund
Forum,
some branch forum approached us as well. So we submitted the whole project idea into their internal process for review. So there is a lot of interest. But this the COVID-19, so essentially this is something that is very important also for the patients of the COVID-19. It has a very noble mission, but at the end of the day, it is still, we want to make a profitable project out of it so that it can self-sustain itself in the future. And the aim is that the companies, the governments, the humanitarian organizations, even certification bodies are going to be able to use this decentralized repository to take information on the most essential equipment that they aim to procure, that they aim to inspect, or that they aim to even sell using this product that will come out of it. It's this is not a this is not a sprint, so it's the project will actually last for several months. But the main aim here is not only to build something useful out of it, but also to have community join us in the mission of creating this repository, and at the same time the community can actually learn certain skills that are going to be required to use OriginTrail decentralized network from the standpoint of the data creator node. So the participants will even get an opportunity to use the network operating system to send the data sets that they're going to collect online. So it's going to be not only an opportunity for community members that are going to be part of this campaign to actually earn certain rewards, trace rewards, but also to gain some knowledge on how to use the OriginTrail decentralized repository, which we believe, again, if we go back to the education, is going to be a very, very sought for skill in the future.
Great, yeah, and it's an important use case at an important time in the world, especially if we're all listening to all the epidemiologists. I mean, we could be going back at some point to where we were at the beginning of this year. So it'd be good to already have a lot of these systems ready to go in place to help mitigate a lot of the failures in the supply chain and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, if you look at not the competition, but what we have available so far, we have certain lists made available by the WHO, by the CDC. I believe also IBM has a certain product, I believe it's called the Reba, making it available for companies to see, which are the suppliers of all kinds of the medical equipment, without even specifying what type of the medical equipment those suppliers offer. Do they have a certificate, CE certificate required for the companies and hospitals to actually, that they can actually use that equipment in a safe manner? So there is no such repository. So our aim was to, because the information is available but is scattered throughout the web, is to bring that information together in one place and make it easier for governments to procure that type of equipment. And in Slovenia, one of the interesting examples was that when they inspected an equipment, even before they ordered a specific batch of equipment from China, they thought that they were ordering authentic equipment holding a CE mark necessary for, I believe, N95 masks needed to protect doctors. But at the end of the day, when the equipment came into Slovenia, despite the fact that they checked the equipment certification twice, they found out that the certificates were not valid. They were fake, and that's a huge problem. And that's why we also want to onboard the certification bodies. We are working with one of them, the British Standards Institution, which is also pretty active in some other very important projects. Have this overall as a very collaborative effort involving community, ourselves, and other partners to deliver something very useful for the world we live in right now.
awesome. Can't wait to see the results from it. It's going to be pretty cool to see. Anything else you guys want to end with? I think we're pretty much wrapping up. If not, then I want to say thanks for doing this again. I love doing these. They're a lot of fun. I think they get better each month, and I'm not just saying that, I'm being honest. So appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for hosting us, man.
Always. All right.
Take care.
Thanks to everyone.
Trace on, guys.
Quite a few people.
Yep.
Trace
yeah, we got
on.
a lot more now. All right, bye, guys.